All right, here we go. We're doing this, I guess. Oops, there we go. Hey everyone, happy Thursday. How's everyone doing? It's game devin time. We're gonna pick up exactly where we left off yesterday. We were really pushing to finish some of the tile placement stuff, and we just ran out of time yesterday, so let's just dive right back into it. We're working on like multi-tile placement, like click and drag stuff. I guess I have to decide where I do that part. Hey Ryson, how's it going? I'm enjoying your updates on your two-ply. It's like almost like a texture projection kind of thing. It's interesting. Just like vertically shifting textures to fit. Game devin time. Yeah, it's game davin time. That's funny. All right, so we have a few things to address. Somewhere we need to tell if we've already triggered something. To like tell if it's sustained. We could do it here. We could have it be like place, and we could be like start or stop or something like that. Like start, stop, or continue or something like that. We need a way of telling the difference. Yeah, get wrecked. I'm not feeling terribly clever today, but luckily I have an idea. I know what we're doing, so I should be able to just do it. We'll really be in trouble when we actually start breaking new ground. Like as soon as this stuff's done, we're gonna start adding in like new tile shapes and stuff, and there's gonna be a lot that needs to get done to do that. Realistically, I should just go with what I have and move on to like pathfinding and like that kind of stuff. But like I did this whole thing, I kind of want to be able to add new tiles. Or we'll get through this whole process and have exactly the same feature set that we had before. So I could have it be in here. I could have like a nested switch statement. Or I could just check to be like, is the next step of the command to stop or to... I guess we just need a command that says stop. Because we need to finalize everything. Oh, I guess we don't technically need to do that. We could just reset the active buffer, or the active, whatever I call it, active. I guess we just reset the prior bounds. Well, we would need to know when to reset it, so that if I start a new action, yeah, I guess we do kind of need to know when the action terminates or not. Where do I want to do that? Could do it here. Or I could do it back here in the, somewhere in the input handler. Like we could tell if the click is sustained or if it's been released or something like that. I feel like sending an input cue. Yeah, when it's been released, I guess that makes sense. At least that. It's like the opposite of mouse click, though. I think having this function be called mouse click is like horribly incorrect. It's more like focus. Like this isn't really mouse hover. It's more like cursor or focus. Because I want to move away eventually from having it be reliant on mouse movement. Because like for a controller, it's going to be a cursor, like a cursor or like a focus that's moved around by like a joystick or a D-pad. And in theory, you should be able to play this game with the keyboard. Maybe not well, but it should support arbitrary rebindings. So where do I want to keep track of the state of that input? The input handler probably seems like the best place to do it. The board is probably not, which is where we're pulling this unhandled input. Although I don't know if I really want to pull, no, I do want to pull this here because we're referencing a volume inside of the board when we're doing this. That makes sense. Oh my God. Red alert. We've detected an incoming cry kit on the sensors here. Get rid of this global. Welcome in, Raiders. Welcome in, cry kit. Wouldn't it be easiest to use actions instead then? I mean, can you assign an action for I've released this key? I don't think so. Welcome in, Raiders. How was the stream, Cry Kid? I was lurking a little bit this morning while I was eating breakfast. I tried to raid you yesterday. I don't know if it totally worked. I feel like I got in there and it was just me. But I appreciate it. Appreciate the raid back. Jacob Dev, howdy. Hello, everyone. We're working on an FTL-like game. So a game like FTL Faster Than Light, made by Subset Games, where our twist on it is that it's kind of a isometric 3D. So it's kind of a hybrid, maybe, or like a fusion between FTL and maybe more of like a little bit. It's got a little bit of Into the Breach in it, you know, a little bit. That's kind of what we're working on, and we're still early days. I know it says episode 129, but still, we're still prototyping and working on tools and trying stuff out. Yeah, you were streaming for many hours, and I showed up, and I hit the raid message, and then I like went back to my stream, and it was like still going, and I was like, oh no, Twitch, what happened? But no worries. It was cool checking out what you were doing. I had to kind of take care of some stuff, so I had to lurk. But what a coincidence that you come back, that you come here today then. Twitch rating is weird lately. Yeah, I had to reset all of my stream info this morning. It all just cleared. It had all completely erased. And I was like, okay, I can do that. I can remember what I write here every time, I guess. Let me show you what kind of stuff we're working on now. So we have an old tile editor that we're replacing with a fancy new model here. Our old one is really rough, but it gets the idea across, which is that we can build these 3D areas. It's got an auto tiler in it, so it's handling like all the outlining and the selecting of like the textures for us. So we can start making rooms. You can tell if a room is like enclosed or not because it changes color. So if it can tell if it's like a pressurized compartment or if it's exposed to outer space. which is useful in an FTL-like. So we can kind of just keep going down because it's like a 3D version of FTL. So we can kind of build out these 3D shapes. We can rotate things around. Let's finish the floor here. Oh, this is the wrong layer, maybe? Yeah, it is. Erase that. Go down. That's awesome. Welcome in, everyone. No Jewel, redeem maximum warp. How's it going, No Jewel? Did you post a video like yesterday or today? I had the subscription list thing that was like, No Jewel's posted something. I haven't been able to check it out yet, but I want to. So let's make a little airlock or something. I don't know. I went too far. But yeah, it's this isometric. We're kind of doing this isometric thing here. Let's add a ceiling here. And this is kind of the rough version, just a proof of concept of at least my tool. This is running in game though, so I can build out ships and stuff. And that's kind of what we've been mostly working on. We ended up wanting to do a simulation layer because this feels like it's going to kind of be a simulation heavy game. And we ended up doing kind of like a simulation layer in C#. So we've kind of split the behavior out. So we've got a simulation layer in C#, and then we have the UI and rendering layer here just in the scene tree. So all of our data here like doesn't exist as nodes. It's like in a separate little world, and then we're communicating what needs to be updated to a array of tile maps that handles all of the rendering. I say array, it's like a tree structure of tile maps. That's kind of what we're working on. We've rebuilt the tile editor to work with our new backend, and we're kind of just re-implementing the feature set. Just a short today? Okay, I'm gonna check that out. That's awesome. Yeah, we've developed this whole process to calculate out how the tile system, like how the tile data should look like in C# in our simulation layer. And then we just, the other day, we've set it up now. We finished a system that just packs that all in as a byte array, as a packed byte array. And then we just send it over and just unpack it inside the tile maps directly. So it's a pretty efficient system. It's got a few issues, but what we're working on now is we're working on recreating this step, which is this. So what I call like a sustained input, where we can do something like this, where we can plant down and then grow it out and then like go the other way and do this thing. Our new tile editor can't do this yet. So that's what we're working on. So I've been thinking about how I want to be able to do that. Rayson, we are using actions. Some of the actions map to the same thing. So like select is left mouse button, but so is like place block. So we treat them differently. Right now we're like funneling them through the same function, which is a little silly. We might change that so that like we just have select or act or something like that. I don't know. Like maybe select for an editing context is more of like a picker, like an eyedropper tool. So like you can pick a block. Like you don't necessarily have to use the palette, the block palette. You could just eyedropper. I don't know. We probably want a modifier on the input to handle that. I gotta add something back here so we can run the new auto tiler. But thanks for the raid. Take care of yourself. I know your streams are really long, Crikit. They're like I feel like they're like 8-hour streams a lot of the time. I couldn't do it. I've recently like flexed to like doing like 3.5 hour streams. I don't know how you sustain that over like such a long. So interact would be a good word. Because interact captures like move, attack. So it's like basically I want one button that's like pick the thing, which is like select. And then I want another button that's like, yeah, like interact, which is like it either moves to that tile or it like attacks something in the tile or it like places a tile. Jacob Dev, thank you for the follow. I really appreciate that. So yeah, maybe I rewrite a little bit of my input map to make things a little clearer for me. So we can say, so instead of select and move, we could say like select and like interact. In which case we kind of get rid of some of these. So like place blocks, we get rid of this. Eraser tool is E is fine. Build mode B, good. All of the camera controls I'm going to keep the same. I need to figure out a way of distinguishing between UI focus and like cursor focus. In the case of like here, if we're in this really bare bones like little editing context, like I want to come over here and select this thing. And like, is that a separate process than moving the cursor around here if you're using like a keyboard or like a joystick? Like, I assume yes, because this is like if I start tabbing through these, that's like a UI focus thing, and we can't exactly do that. So I feel like we'll have a concept of a cursor, and like the mouse will just move the cursor directly, but we'll want like a different way of like moving the cursor. We'll want to be able to like snap it. I've paid a lot of attention to how Into the Breach does it with their controller support. I'll probably end up just doing basically what they do because their controller support's like really good. I should boot that up on my Steam Deck and give that a look again now that I'm kind of thinking more about input. You think unhandled input is for non-UI interactions? Yeah. So we could have the arrow keys or the joystick or whatever trigger a thing, because that's what I'm doing here. So like cursor left, cursor right, cursor up, cursor down. This is like, these are like joypad axes. It's a little tricky because we need to map the axis. Like these are the axes in the joystick axis, and we need to map them to the isometric axis. It's a little awkward. So like down moves you, increases the X and the Y. Up decreases the X and the Y. Right increases the X but decreases the Y. So it's like, it's a little tricky. I've done that before, mapping cardinal direction input to like the different space, like the isometric one. You don't want to do a 1-to-1 because you don't want up just moving you along the y-axis. You want it to like match what you're doing. That's not really what we're working on right now. I'm just kind of thinking about it. Let's clean this up a little bit. So we've got shift, twist, zoom. Got some key commands that are hard-coded right now. This I'm getting rid of. I like don't want, maybe I'll have some hotkeys at some point, but I don't want these. Ooh, okay, that was a mistake. There we go. We're not going to select palette blocks. Yeah, so let's do select, left click, interact, right click. So then we could change some of these functions from mouse click or mouse hover. Well, let's say mouse, because right now we only support mouse, but we could say select. So we could say select, and then if it's the edit state, select does, actually it wouldn't do a place, would it? It would actually do nothing. So this is the interact. If we're in the play state, it would be play, and it would be interact. Edit tool, place. We can change the names of this stuff later. Let's just make it a little clearer now what we're doing. So we're going to say input handler dot interact. Input is for UI. You can mark input as consumed or not. Yep. Yep. Godot will pass along events as necessary. Yep. That's why we're using unhandled input. I mean, you don't actually need to do input. The UI can just consume the input directly if you've got UI nodes. But yeah, I know what you mean. Because I would like that to be handled more on the screen than anywhere else for me, based on, you know, the positioning of things. I've done this as well, and we'll work more on that, but like selecting like characters as they're running by and stuff. Because select, we want to be able to click and drag and move a block, right? So like you don't, if you place a block in the wrong spot, you shouldn't have to erase it. Like if you place a block in the wrong, oh, does this not work now? Oh, it doesn't. Of course it doesn't, because I changed the bindings. Input action place blocks doesn't exist. No, it doesn't. No, it does not. Interact now. I like that. More contextual, less explicit about the intent. Because the intent, or what we do, is going to be more based on, okay? So action interact, input handler dot interact. Change the code such that we can't do anything. But yeah, my point was that you should be able to select a block that's been placed down, drag it over to a new spot, and then release it, right? Really, you should be able to do that with like a whole section. Maybe you drag, maybe you box an area, or you just click and you select an area, and then maybe now that's like a block range or boundary, or I don't know, some kind of data structure that we move around. Maybe your active block tool can be more than a single block. Maybe active block tool is like a list. So you can move things around and reposition stuff. That's pretty cool. We still haven't addressed the core thing that I was thinking about, which was we need to distinguish between, we don't really need to know when we start a placement, but we do need to know when we stop. I need to build these boundaries. So I guess we do need to know when we start. So we've got our bounds. Our bounds is going to be, so we get place. Yeah, we kind of need to know our anchor point. We'll call it anchor placement. Private vector3i anchor placement. You can call it placement anchor as well. This is going to be our anchor for move for just placing like a grid of things. I kind of want to, Yeah, we need to know this. We may or may not need to store the AABB. We may just generate it every time. So here we would say, so we can reveal blocks. So the place, so the chords, so the placement chords, I'm gonna call this chords. Bryson, are you only able to drag around on the same tile map layer, or will it let you move things down multiple layers? In theory, there's no reason you're limited to a single layer. You know, Godot has some built-in support for dragging and dropping. I mean, if this was a node and it was mouse pickable, if it was a node 2D or whatever, and it had a collision shape, and the collision shape or area or whatever was mouse pickable, yeah, we could just click and drag it and start moving it around. We're doing something a little different. We're like defining boundaries in space. I mean, from a UI standpoint or from an input standpoint, that's like the best part about input over event is event. We talked about this last time, but if input has input is action just pressed or just released or whatever. Event does not have that. And if event is a mouse action, it does not have echo events are like not meaningful. Like we can't restrict. I mean, echo events are restricted by default, but like that doesn't help us at all. It should say add support. Remove requirement for mouse position. Replace with cursor, independent cursor. That's what I want to do. I want to have a cursor that is independent of the mouse, that the mouse might control, but it might also be controlled by the joystick. That's kind of what I want to do. And that's not that hard to do. We might even hijack the mouse itself, depending on whether I want the mouse to be allowed to be at a separate position from the cursor. Because I do this shit all the time when I'm like playing a game on my PC, is I'll like, if I'm in the menu system, maybe I'm using my mouse and keyboard, but once I start playing, I'll like play with my joystick. But then I need to go back into a menu and I like start using my mouse and keyboard again. So like we need to be able to handle the possibility that people are going back and forth. And it's not a huge priority now. I just want to think about it. I mean, I don't know if the drag drop features don't apply. I don't know if that's an explicit feature or if that's just like kind of how the physics system can work. Like it'd be cool if there was input.isDrag. But I don't think that's the kind of thing we're talking about. So interact, we add the mouse coordinates. Unhandle input if input is interact. So yeah, somewhere else we need to keep track of whether this is ended. And you know, maybe it's, I don't want to do a thing where we just like every frame check to see if we're receiving input, and as soon as we stop receiving input, we end the motion, because that's not really how I want to do it. I kind of only want to send this in if our prior interact target was I guess we can do this part, and then input handler can do the check. So input for interact, because we do this with mouse coordinates or with mouse hover as well. With mouse hover, we're like asking if, I actually don't know if I want to do this here either. For the moment, we're asking if the mouse coords are at the same coordinate as the prior coordinate. We should only be setting prior coordinate here, right? So this way we only do it once. We could do the same thing here. Or we could say like interact coordinate, and we could distinguish like hover and interact. So we could say like something like last interact location. Oh, I like don't know how to declare variables in GDScript anymore. We could set this, and then we could do a check here where we say like, well, we don't necessarily want to do that, do we? I'm thinking like I don't want to accept multiple interact commands at the same tile. Like if you've clicked some, no, that's too complicated because we'd have to know if we're like the subject hasn't changed or whatever. We need to do that stuff on the back end. For the hover, I'm just avoiding spamming the mouse hover command based on this, but we can't do the same thing for interact. Interact is too complicated. We could maybe do it if we were more specific about what we were talking about, but that's fine. So we're going to spam this every frame that the action is pressed, that the input hasn't been consumed already. That'll be interesting to see how that works. We need some way of saying we're not doing this anymore. I guess I could ask, is action released? Is action released? Returns true if the given action is released, i.e. not pressed. Well, that's not great. I guess I just need to keep track of a state of saying, like, are we actively interacting? So we could say, I guess we need to do something in the Ryson, you're reading about drag drop now. You're thinking about was a newer feature of 4.x. Turns out it's just for UI controls. 3 new virtual private functions that you can define to enable drag drop. So function get drag data at position vector 2. Cool. Variant can drop data. Cool function drop data. Interesting. Okay, so there's some cool drag drop stuff for UI. That's interesting. For like repositioning the UI with a mouse while the game is running, that's interesting. It's not how I would expect that to work, but we can look at that. So what I want to do, so we've got an interaction. I'm just thinking of the use cases here. So we basically need to start listening if we're interacting, and then notice if it's released. And we could do that in a number of locations. So we have actively placing. Oh, this is the wrong level. I want to do this at the input handler level. We could have that here. I don't necessarily want to do this at the board level. This is the one problem with trying to do this here instead of just checking the input. This is an event. So what I would need to do is somewhere else figure out whether we've released the input. Somewhere I'm willing to check every frame. I mean, we could just do it here. We're already processing some stuff. But it's a little awkward. Does release count as an event? It wouldn't, would it? Like releasing the mouse, does that count as a discrete event? Like, does that fire an unhandleable input if I release the mouse click? I'm like tempted to say yes, but also no. I'm not sure if the given action is released, i.e. not pressed. Not relevant for events of type mouse motion or event screen drag. Yeah, sure. Hey, Scott. That's cool, Ryson. So yeah, you could use that new drag drop feature for like a inventory system that's just UI. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. Curious about this. I guess we should just test it. I don't think it will, but if it does, that solves my problem a lot. I guess this will fire for any event. You can't really check for the absence of an event here. We can't do that. It's probably easier to just do all of this in a process function than to try to do it like this. Just that's what I did in this, and it's ugly as sin, but it just works, which is just in the process function, we just check the input to see what actions are pressed. And some of them are exclusive, like we'll only check one and then we'll check the others. We just go through all this stuff. I didn't want to do it this way. That's actually kind of what we're doing here anyway. Be right back 1 second. Doorbell rang. All right, we're back. I should probably just do it here. I didn't want to because I wanted to allow for the UI to consume the input before letting the input carry on. That's becoming a little annoying. Maybe once we receive one of these, it triggers something. That's probably what we're going to do. So we'll start an interaction from here, from an unhandled input event. And we can use that to continue the interaction. But as soon as that happens, we're going to start listening for the end of the interaction. So maybe this just starts the interaction. That could work. Like sustained interaction. I don't know. Say is I'll just say interacting. And down here we can say, we can actually put that, no, we can't put that here, but just put that down here. Say if interacting. Oh, Scott, you're playing Untitled Goose Game. Love that game so much. So if we're interacting, now we can say something like if input dot is action pressed interact. Well, what we could do is we could just check to see if it's released. Is action just released? If we're interacting and we've ended the interaction, then we can do something. Well, what we want to do is we want to say this. So if we're interacting and then if we ended the interaction, we do something. If the interaction is continuing, is pressed, we do something. Say elif. You can do this a little differently. We're just going to say, so if it's pressed, we'll continue the interaction. And then if it's not, if it's not pressed, we know what we can do. We send in an interaction and we say interact equals false. So here we'll say, so here we need to know what the game state is. So we'll match the game state. So if we're in edit mode, we'll say game.enqueue input edit tool place. Let's say continue, maybe. And then we'll put in, we need to put in some coordinates. For now, we need to just put in, we need to calculate some coordinates. Oh, we can't do that here. Well, we could if we know. Because we rely on mapping the mouse coordinates relies on knowing something pretty particular. Maybe we'll do it here. Let's move it down here. We need to split these functions out. We need to say like, Start interaction. Not going to include that additional states right now because we don't actually know what we want to do with additional states. Code those later. So we're not going to do that here. Change my mind. So we'll have start interaction. We'll have like function like continue interaction. I want some defense if you're in the middle of an interaction. Maybe we can use that. Maybe we can use a similar thing like we're doing with the hover, with checking the mouse coordinates. Resume. Resume implies like a stop, that there's been an end for something. I'm like looking for a shorter word. I'm weird like that. Resume means begin to do or pursue something again after a pause. Okay. Yeah, that's not exactly what we want. So we'll just say continue. So we'll say continue. And then we'll say like end function. We'll say like we say begin, continue, and end. That has the benefit of being alphabetical. Pass in the coordinates in case they change. It's possible that they've changed. It's unlikely, but possible. Why am I writing this out? This is how errors get made. All right, then we couch the three states. We begin, continue, or end, and we enqueue the appropriate input. Instead of place, we could call it something else like release. But place, the end is actually a key part of it because it creates a point. End is where we create a point at which we can undo from. Proceed, ongoing. Neither of those really fit. Maybe it'll spark an idea. Yeah, I don't know. We'll just go with continue. It implies a continuity. Scott, hello again. Fashionably late to the party today. No worries. Continue is nice because it doesn't explicitly forbid the fact that there could have been a pause. Because someone could have started an interaction, not moved the mouse for a while, and then continued on. So we would sustain the interaction until the end there. All right, now let's go back to the board. So here we need to handle this, so which is fine because we're calculating this stuff. We're mapping the coordinates no matter what every frame on the board, which is fine. Since we're doing that, we might as well do that here. So if mouse coords are not equal to prior coords, we can say so here we can detect if we're, so we need like an is interacting or something like that. The player is interacting with the board. So we can change the hover. Do we want to do a hover if we're in the middle of an interaction? Probably not. Yeah, Untitled Goose Game is a truly great game. Agree. I wouldn't mind more games like that. Picked up Pizza Possum to play. That seems like fun. Yeah. It seems like it's got some similar vibes. And it's from the person who made Kingdom, which is wild. Didn't expect that. So we want to do this mouse hover thing, but do we always want to do it? Do we want to do it while we're interacting? I don't know. Having a hard time deciding that. I think the answer is no. We could say if is hovering, not hovering, is interacting. Might actually put the is interacting check out here. So if we're interacting, then we want to check to see this. We would say if input dot is action just released. So if we're interacting, the action's just been released, then we just end. We just end the interaction. Say input handler dot end interaction. We send in the mouse coordinates here. This is begin interaction. And then we can do elif then we do input handler dot continue interaction. Oh, I need to recreate the input handler? No way. Yeah, you're right here. Did I misspell input handler? I did. Input handler. Okay, so if we're not interacting, if the action is just released, I guess we don't want just released. We just want released. Don't really care. Oh, this doesn't have it? Is action released? It has action pressed, and it has just released. It doesn't have released. Oh, well, we're checking every frame. We won't miss that. We could also invert it, though. and ask if it's pressed. Probably safer. We're not likely to accidentally miss an input somehow. We would say if is action pressed and mouse chords are not equal to prior chords. We just want to avoid doing stuff every frame if we can avoid it. So if if we're sustaining the interaction and we've made a meaningful change to our mouse coordinates, then now we do the continue. Otherwise, well, this can't be an and, can it? This has to be nested. I kind of like doing it the other way. Not quite as nested. We also want to make sure is interacting is set to false. I'm going to change this to amid interaction. I know that's like not the traditional way to do that, but I like that better. And then down here, if we're not amid an interaction, we still want to ask if we want to say elif mouse chords are not equal to prior chords. Then we can do this stuff. Here, if we do this, we want to set prior chords. We also don't want to say mouse chords. It might be cursor. Might not be the mouse. It's going to be the cursor, which I do want to be separate from the mouse. Similarly, here we can say mouse because this is hard-coded to be the mouse. Okay, I'm happy with that. Interesting how I'm passing viewing direction to the mouse hover. Why am I doing that? Not using it for anything. Oh, this is just utility relative to absolute. What? Do I need to do that? Do I need to send the command over as an absolute coordinate? I guess I do. I guess I do. Okay. Get mouse coordinates. Yeah, okay, so that's all relative, right? All right, so what are we gonna do? Did I break this? Oh, this is just old. Okay. So we have our silly little interaction. I mean, we could just have one interaction function and like have like a parameter that takes different states. But I'm just gonna leave these as separate for now. Separate functions. All right, so now we need to process that stuff here, which unfortunately means I need to add something here. So we can say like if we can say if command we can say command dot next dot step is I should make this a command argument, but it's a string. So I would say, how do I do that right now? I say enum.parse.command.arg. I mean, I guess. We could also just hard code it for now. You could say if it's begin. So if it's begin, we want to say, do we actually need to keep track of a bool here? Maybe not. Let's start with not since we're tracking it somewhere else. But what I do need to do is I would need to set the placement anchor. Placement anchor equals, probably need to do a number of things here. Maybe we just set the placement anchor. Placement anchor equals command.next. Well, hold on. Placement chords. Just say chords. Why are we? We could say current chords. We don't need to do whatever this try reveal block add is, right? We do not. We can skip that. We can just say chords. Oh, the switch statement doesn't like that, does it? Why does the switch statement not like that? Because I guess a case could technically fall into the next case. So it does not like that. It's fine, I guess. What we need to do. Oh, this is a little annoying. Command.next.step. No, placement anchor equals command.next. It equals this. We need to define vector 3i placement chords. I'm just gonna call it place chords. It's shorter. It's up here somewhere. Maybe we put the coordinates before the command to start or stop. I think we do that because I'm having a little hard time doing it the other way. No reason it has to be. No reason the data payload has to be last, as far as like the number or whatever. Do it now. So in that case, what we do is, yeah, we just set this up here first. Do this. And I guess now we have a switch statement. We have switch command dot next dot step case. Okay, now we need to add these to the enum. So we have begin. We have continue. Fine is fine. Good day. How goes the project? It's all right. Thanks. Fine is fine. We're improving. We're kind of improving how our batch selections, not selection, our batch like tile placement tool works. So we're trying to set it up so that we can place down like volumes of tiles at once, either as like a repetition of the same tile, or like what I want to do next is make it so you can grab a block of tiles and like drag them over to a new location. That would be cool. What's the last one? End. It keeps suggesting help. every time every time I go to add an enum to the argument list here, it autofills with help. And it's like, what are you telling me, writer? Like, is there like what is the AI trying to tell me? It needs help, I guess. Switch enum dot parse. But how are you doing? Also, C sharp, Godot, sad face. Oh, you haven't seen this then in quite some time probably. We have split our project into like two different domains. So we have like the typical GD script like domain of like we have like nodes in a tree. They do the input handling, like all the UI stuff is done there in GD script land. All the rendering stuff is done. Like we've got tile map layers and stuff. Like where are they? Here. So we have stuff in GD script land, but we also have a separate simulation layer in C sharp that's like backed by this like janky little entity component system I've made. And that lets us do like really lightweight simulation. We actually just finished a system that does all of the auto tiling off of the tile block data in here, and then packs a bunch of tile map datas and then bundles them up and ships it over to the GD script side. And then the tile maps just unpack them and they have all their data already. So the tile maps are just like very dynamically updated based on what's going on. It's cool, but yeah, it's a little weird. It's a little unusual. Did I need to do it? No. Did I want to do it? Yes. So we have case command.arg.begin break case command.arg.continue. Why did you put did I add a space? To continue? I did not. What are you doing? What is the... Oh, it's not a semicolon. It's a colon. That's amazingly cool. Splitting them into domains for different purposes. Is it insanely cool? Yes. Did I need to do it? No. Is it a pain in the ass? Also, yes. These GDScript and C# do not want to talk to each other. You have to be very careful about having them talk to each other. There's a lot of marshalling costs associated with doing so. So we have like a very hard split. Like we basically have this the root of our scene tree is this node called game, and everything in the scene tree is a child of game, except our input handler, because that's an auto load. But game is like the only thing that exists in both worlds. So it's our like portal. It's our wardrobe here. It has the references that it needs, so it can help us funnel things back. So it handles like the transferring things back and bringing things in, like bringing input in and sending output back. Because yeah, you don't want to marshal stuff all the time. And we're avoiding it currently because we're currently only sending over primitive arrays of bytes, like and those can just get pinned, which is pretty cool. So we're not really paying for it at the moment, at least just for the case of tile map layers. We'll see what happens when we need to send more complicated like node, like when we need to update nodes based on what's happening on the simulation layer. I'm curious to see how that works. But for the tile maps, it's been like perfect. Okay, so here for begin, yeah, we want to set the placement anchor. But how are you doing? How are your projects going? Fusionist, hey, how's it going? How are you doing as well? How's everyone doing? So we're going to get rid of this try replace block at. What we need to do is we need to create... how did I decide to do this with the bounds? This is an exclusive upper bound, I think. I should really document that. Let me double check to make sure that's the case. Is within bounds. Well, right now it's doing this, so yeah, it's treating it that way. So if your boundaries are 1, I don't know if I love that. So like area would be bounds x dot x times bounds dot y. And so your area, I mean, we could just add the +1 here. So if you fill in a bounds that's 0, 0, 0, that means that this is an AABB of 0 length, which I don't like. I would assume that if you pass in a 0, 0, 0 boundary, what you're telling me is that this is an AABB that occupies a single cell. It's like a singularity, like, or it's not like a singularity. It like actually it occupies one cell and one cell only. Please. Fine is good. You're gearing up to write some stuff for ProcGen and Unreal, some new stuff you want to try. Hopefully 10 to 20 hours this week to save hundreds in the future. That's the trade-off that I've been making this winter. I've been trying to make, which is like we're spending a lot of time on tools, and I spent like a couple months on that entity component system, and like I'm really hoping it pays off down the line. Because we're still catching up in terms of feature sets with what we had before. I'm glad you're doing good as well, Fusionist. We're doing all right. We're making progress, which feels good. Fine is fine. You spent a lot of time on tooling. It seems to have worked out. That's the gamble, and I'm really hoping it works. Everyone I've talked to says that that's like a worthwhile gamble. As long as your project is big enough and long enough, I think. Like, I've made the mistake of trying to make a tool while doing a game jam. That's a horrible mistake. Never make tools while doing a game jam. You could use tools that you already have, but like don't make a tool during a game jam. But if you're working on a big project, yeah, I think it's worth it. So I kind of want to change the way this behaves a little bit. So this would be, so its area would actually be bounds.x plus 1 times, oh, I got a parentheses to the rescue here, times bounds.y plus 1. Kind of want to do it that way, but will that work? Let's do a sanity check here. So this is now your upper boundary, an inclusive upper boundary. If you subtract your offset, so if our boundary is 0, our offset has to be 0. The offset can't be greater or lower than... I should probably have like a constructor check that throws an error if this is the case, if like the boundary and the offset, if the offset is greater than or less than the boundary. I don't think I really want to allow that. Fine is fine, yeah, and if you have future projects, you can take those tools into game jams. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm gambling with the idea, or I'm tempted to like turn my entity component system into like a little plugin for me, so I can use it in other projects. But I would never want to use an ECS in a game jam. That'd be like, what are you doing? That seems like asking for trouble. But yeah, in principle, I very much believe in that. So your minimum is the negative offset. Your maximum is the bounds minus the offset. Because yeah, the offset is whatever. The offset is wherever your position matches up. So your AABB would have a separate position component. And the offset is just where is my pivot point, like within the AABB. Like where is my center? I should probably call it center instead of offset. Bounds and center. Is that better? That's probably more typical, because often this would be called extent. But to me, it's not. I guess we could use this as extent. Extent to me forces, if we just say extent and we say center, to me that means every AABB has to be odd, has to have a length that's odd, because it'll have its center and then it'll have its extent from the center. And assuming they're all, even numbers. But here, if I just do bounds, which is like from 0 to whatever, from 0 to bounds, that's like your volume, and then you have a center. And your center is like your point within the bounds that you pivot around. I could call it pivot, I guess, as well. I think center is better than offset. I think offset is fine, but center is better. All right, so now that means I need to change some things. So now bounds is inclusive instead of exclusive. So I need to change my boundary. We need to take out this hack in my boundary function here, my boundary check function, which I do want to just move into. I want to just move this into the AABB. Let's not do that immediately. All right, so I need to change one other thing, which is this. So when we declare this based on the max block volume, which used to be exclusive and now it's inclusive. So I just need to redefine the max block volume. It's 14 now. And 5. Leomotech, thank you for the follow. Really appreciate that. How are you doing today? I know I'm kind of scatterbrained and I keep jumping between things, but that's how dev is, right? Where you're like, I need to fix this issue. But to fix this issue, I need to fix this issue. And to fix this issue, I need to fix this issue. You just keep pushing down. And then eventually you get to pop up, and then maybe you push down again, and then pop up. And it's like, it's an easy way to get lost. But as long as you just, as long as you pay attention to the stack, you should be fine. Good evening. Oh, good evening to you. What are you building? We are building an isometric 3D little spaceship management game that's kind of like FTL faster than light. We're working on our tile editing tools, which lets us build out 3-dimensional ships. We're working on that. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, this is like not in game. This is just my like style guide for it, but it works so far as like being a flashy thing to show people. As far as the vibes, this is the vibe. Classic Star Trek, low res, isometric. Well, not isometric, but sort of pseudo isometric. It's kind of going to be somewhere between FTL and Into the Breach, I think. So if you like subset games, you're gonna like this game. Or I guess I should say, if you like subset games, you'll like these games, or this game, hopefully. Will there be a story? Yeah. It'll kind of be like a classic Star Trek, like 5-year mission. So you'll have like a crew and a ship, and you'll have different adventures in different locations. It'll be kind of like traveling across the galaxy map in like FTL. And so yeah, there will be a story. There'll be some kind of overarching story, but there will be a lot of little stories, like little stories of events that you've experienced. It's going to lean more into player story than like big static narrative, probably. Kind of like Star Trek before it became serialized, like classic Star Trek, like TOS or TNG. Before, like, because nowadays all sort of stories are serialized. Like you have to watch each episode in a row, and you got to pay attention to the overarching story as it develops. This is gonna be. I'm hoping this is gonna be a little more episodic. Wolby, hey Teamy, you taking part in the team's game jam? I am so torn about that, Wolby. It's long. It's a long jam for me, and I am very behind. Um, I think that'll be really cool. I am saddened in game jam news. I'm saddened about the death of Ludum Dare, but I'm happy to announce that some people I know that are good people, a lot of streamers as well, like Adagon Pomo, Bad Cop, they're putting together a Dare to Jam. Dang it, Adagon. They took the site down. I was just about to show off. I'm gonna tell him that later. And you're like, Adagon, I was trying to show off your jam site for your Ludum Dare replacement, and the website just doesn't work. Maybe the theme release will convince me. That is possible. That is possible. When did you start development? Any deadline in mind? We've been working on the game in its current form about a year. No deadline. This is at least a 5-year mission. Probably 6. Well, you also have to spend all 2 weeks on it. You could just do it for a few days if that's your preferred timeline. The theme just got released. Oh well, let's reveal that. I mean, assuming that's allowed. What is the jam theme? I presume you're bouncing around rallying the troops, Wolby, so I appreciate that. Explosions make it go. Oh. Hmm. That's kind of tempting. That sounds pretty good. Explosions make it go. That's like a fun physics sandbox temptation if I've ever heard one. I'm going to think about it. I don't know if I have time, but that's a really cool theme. And I would like to do more Godot 2D physics stuff. Not super pleased with Godot's 3D physics, but I would like to try some more 2D physics stuff. We'll see. I'm gonna see if maybe some teams form. Maybe I'll now that it's about to happen, maybe there'll be some more team formation on the Discord. I'm gonna go in there and check because I might be able to contribute to a jam without like making it my whole thing. Because I'm usually a solo jammer, and it's really hard to be part of a team for me. But I'm gonna give it my best shot. Yeah, Town and Bounce, no worries. Thanks, Wolby. This is how you find out about LD Fusionist? Yeah, sorry. I'm upset that that website doesn't work. Does the old URL work? Okay, the old URL works. Oh, I spelled it wrong. It's my fault. It's not Adagon's fault. It's D2Jam, not Dare to Jam. This is a jam that's being put together to replace Ludum Dare 57, which was April 4th through 7th. And they're just putting this together. Like they're testing the posts and stuff, and like this could be fun. It's like a 4-day jam, 3 to 4 day jam. I don't know how close it's going to be to Ludum Dare in terms of like rules and stuff, but it's community run. It should be cool. Put it on your calendars. Mike did update today to note things are looking up. I am glad things are looking up for Mike. I feel like he needed to have more conversations with the community before just coming out and canceling the whole thing. Like he could have just he could have handed the event off to some other people before making a big public announcement that the event's canceled. Like I'm hoping that's still what he ultimately does. But like it's like the phrase the captain goes down with the ship. This was like the ship going down with the captain. And it's like how is that necessary? There's a whole crew. like there's a whole crew of people super invested in this event. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. I don't want to. I know he's like. I'm sure he's had a hard time. I know the flame war against him has been overwhelming. Um, I'm glad things are looking up for him. You just learned about it, yeah. Okay, so let's get back to work. So we've got our begin placement, continue placement, and end placement. We need to do different things at different times. So for begin, we update the placement anchor. We probably create the AABB. Or we just call replace block at. We call the single replace block at for the single one. Although, no, we don't need to do that because the block is already there because of the preview block at. So the mouse hover gave us a preview block there. We need to make sure we're interacting correctly with the hidden block dictionary. We don't need this active blocks thing, probably. We have a hidden blocks dictionary, which it's just like a cache for like, or a buffer of blocks that might be replaced because we're considering replacing them. I'm going to get rid of this actively placing bool. Active block tool, we need to move away from active block tool being a single block to being like a list of blocks or an array of blocks. Probably a list. Prior bounds is good. So what we need is a current bounds. We need like a placement bounds thing. So for continue, we're just going to say variable placement bounds is a new. Okay, hold on. I need to think about this for a second. You've been at it since LD35 or so, and Mike wants to ruin your run streak? I know. The nerve. I think they were just maybe, they clutched onto that event a little too tightly. Should have loosened their grip and let other people get involved. Active bounds, yeah. I want to name it like placement anchor. I can just say bounds because we're going to regenerate this every single frame. I'm just going to say bounds, but what we need to do is we need to, so the only constructor I support right now for AABB is bounds center. I probably want a constructor that doesn't have a center. Because what we want to do is we want to keep the placement anchor as either the minimum or the maximum. That's what I do in the old system. So like, this probably won't run. Guess maybe it will. It won't run? Oh, no, of course it won't. This will run, though. So like this. So like this is, so we click down and we've picked our placement anchor. And now we can drag. Oh, what? Oh, I need to update the star docs input handler because I changed a command on it. Oopsies. Not place blocks anymore. Actually, I'm just gonna recreate that input maybe. Nah, whatever. We'll rename this. It's interact. This is temporary. All right, so as I was saying before, okay, I actually don't know all the places where I use this, where I use the place blocks. I'm just gonna recreate place blocks as an input. Action, place blocks, add, assign a key, left mouse, done, bam. There we go. So we place down, and then we start dragging, and then the placement anchor will always be one of the endpoints. The question is whether it remains the minimum endpoint or the maximum endpoint. Like, is it the minimum point of the area or whatever, or is it which end is it basically? Is it the minimum or the maximum? And that will change. So right now I don't really have a way of building an AABB knowing only two of the endpoints. I guess I can just do that. I can figure out which point is the minimum and which point's the maximum, and then just subtract the minimum from the maximum. And that will give me my area. Okay, we'll do that. I kind of don't always need a center. But that's fine. I'm going to make center optional, I guess. Wait, how do you know about Godot? That's what I thought. Oh, that doesn't work. All right, I'm going to make a constructor that just has the bounds because I don't want to be bothered. There we go. Because in some cases, I really don't care what the center is. I could default it to the midpoint. That'd be okay, but it really doesn't matter. So back in here, we need to make so we say AABB bounds equals a new AABB. Oh, we need to figure out which one is the. Before we do that, we need to figure out which of these is the minimum and the maximum. When I did this before in Godot, for some reason, I did this per component. I guess is the easiest way to do that. We just did a max. So we just plugged it all in. How does my max function work? I think it works that way, or it works per component like that. Max. So max, I can ask for max value. Oh, that's just that. That's different. Okay. Where is my max function? Max function, pass in another. Yeah, okay, we just do this. So we just say, oops, AABB bounds equals new. We say vector 3, or we say cowards dot. Oh, I'm struggling with how long this is. You know, we only ever process one of these. Tempted to just define cowards up here if we need them. Just so I can have them. Vector 3 cowards. I want to just call these cowards. Have them nice and short. Wait, why are you upset? Oh, because you're being declared. I know this isn't like the best form, but I don't care. So we're going to say anchor, change you to anchor. Do I need to know about the prior coords? No, I do not. So our boundary is, we can say it's coords. We can say it anchor, say anchor dot max coords. So pick the maximum minus anchor dot min coords. So that's our boundary starting at 0. So I guess it's good defaulting center to 0 because it makes some sense in that case, in that use case. So that should give us a boundary. Right now it's just giving us, well, no, I guess it works in 3 dimensions. So then what we do is we say try replace blocks in the bounds. And then the bound, this we say nothing, I guess, actually. Why are we keeping track of when this ends? Oh, I'm gonna eventually want to create like an undo point. Right now we don't need it. Will this work? Probably not. Why is this? For each vector 3 coords in prior bounds. Oh no, we do need to set prior bounds. Okay. Say prior bounds equals new AABB. Uh, oh wait, no, we do need the center. So it's this is the bounds. The center is coords. Right, that makes sense. Having that constructor doesn't make any. So it's the difference between the anchor and wherever we are, and it's centered around the current coordinates. That should be fine. Prior bounds is a new AABB of vector 3.0 and coords. Vector 3i dot 0. Okay, let's try this. This is probably not going to work. But what does? The first time. Nothing I write, that's for sure. Crash. No? It's going to wait until I press a button. Okay, well, nothing's happening. Now we figure out where nothing is happening. Oh, we're not storing the. Oh, here we go. Try reveal block at active block tool. We need to be storing the hidden blocks, or this isn't gonna work. Why are we storing prior bounds here? That doesn't seem like where we should be doing that. All right, so nothing is happening. Oh, I probably butchered this system here, because now we say coords is from string command.next.step. Then we say parse command.next.step. No, that's right. That is right. Go place, then coords, then argument. All right, let's see. Time to put in the debugs here. Debug.writeLine. Begin. Debug writeLine continue. Debug writeLine end. Oh, I should probably be in debug mode. All right, nothing. Let's add a breakpoint here then. Hello? Can't I add a breakpoint? Oh, because it's a case. I need to do like this. Can I do this? Yeah, that's gonna immediately do it. That's not what I actually wanted. That's unfortunate. So I can't breakpoint on a case? I guess that makes sense. Breakpoint here. I mean, we're definitely not getting here. No. Okay, so the placement is never getting to the getting there. Why is that? So here we're adding, well, let's do the same check here, I guess then. We'll do a print begin, print continue. There's some edge cases that are gonna be kind of nasty. Like, what if we try to begin the what if we try to begin the input outside of the legal area and then we start it, or and then we continue it into a legal area, into an area we can, like within bounds? We're gonna need to account for stuff like that. Okay, so this isn't even happening. Okay, so where am I not maintaining this bool correctly? Am I not ever setting this to true? No, I'm not. Cool. But that shouldn't matter. I mean, I do need to do that. Amid interaction equals true. Begin interaction, map mouse coordinates, mouse position. I wonder what runs first, process or unhandled input. I know there's a list of like how that propagates, but it's like kind of hard to read sometimes. And I haven't looked at it recently. Okay. So begin interaction is never even being triggered. Weird. Yeah, nothing's printing. So it's upstream of this, which is fascinating. I mean, the game state is edit. We like know that. That hasn't changed. Check my input map, I guess. Interact. Oh, I'm an idiot. Oops. Oopsies. Begin. Begin. Continue. End. Okay. I am getting the input. I didn't even notice which. I realized I used right mouse button for interact instead of left. Because I want to do left. I want select to be left. Because I feel like that's normal for mouse controls. Like you select things with left and then you do things with right. Why is it partly GDScript and partly C sharp? Unnecessarily complicated, but basically the stuff that's nodes in the scene tree, I just like to use GDScript for stuff that's mostly just calling the Godot API. It's like better. It's like more performant. I like GDScript. It's more straightforward for me too, because like that's what like most of the docs are written in and stuff. We use C sharp for the stuff that has nothing to do with the scene tree, stuff that doesn't call the Godot API. We use it mainly for, we use the C sharp for our simulation layer, which is being run. You know, the simulation data is just lightweight data. It's not like they're not backed by nodes and resources and stuff like that. So that's why I'm mixing them. Just there, it's just different languages for different domains. Is it more complicated to do it this way? Yes, as I'm learning. So this part's not working, but the question is what part of it's not working? Try reveal block For coords in prior bounds, if utility dot is within bounds, coords, prior bounds dot minimum. Prior bounds dot minimum. That's not right. Bounds. I need to change this so that you just say bounds, or you say coords dot is within bounds and you pass in the bounds or something. Or you say bounds dot is within bounds and you pass in the coordinates. I don't know, whichever one makes more sense. It probably makes more sense to have this on the AABB. So you'd say bounds and you'd say like within or coords. I don't know, whatever. I like it to say coords dot is within and then pass in bounds, but it's a little silly to do it that way. Liama Tech, it looks like there's a lot of logic in C# already. Yeah. So the C# at the moment handles our entity component system. It handles our auto tiling. Mainly those right now, but those are big, right? And we're writing the tile editor stuff in here too. So the GD script stuff is going to be for things like user interface or like handling animations, like stuff that talks to the API a lot. So GD script is more performant calling the Godot API than C#? Yes, Scott. Very much so. I don't know if it's a huge amount, but it's enough where like I don't want to mess with it. And it seems more natural to me that like if I'm dealing with a node, if I have a script on a node and I'm dealing with the node, it makes sense for me for that script to be GD script. But if I'm doing this kind of other thing somewhere else, it's nice to have it in this C# land. I don't know. It's preference. It's personal preference more than anything. I could have just done the whole project in either GD script or C#. If I did it in GD script, I would have needed to write my ECS in like C++, and it would have been hard for me personally, but it would have been doable. So try review. So this was wrong for one thing. This though, for coords in bounds, utility, if not is within bounds. So if this isn't within this boundary, we continue. Otherwise, we write it out. Coords within. This is wrong as well. Should be bounds minimum. I think I'm gonna move this function into the AABB. I think it's time. I think writing it out this way is really awkward. Okay, so we didn't do anything. We're certainly not setting anything. Buffer does not seem to be getting modified. It's concerning. I'm probably just not, well, hold on. Buffer. This try reveal block at might be causing us some trouble. Let's try to narrow down the issue here. I also might be handling the boundary checks incorrectly. It's very possible. Well, we're not doing anything still. So that's fun. Oh, I'm doing something wrong up here. We can't pass the coordinates into this bounds thing. every time. Wait, how does this work then? I guess the center needs to just be... I gotta decide how this is gonna work. Maybe I move the boundary check in here and that makes it clear to me how this is gonna work. Let's get this. Well, this is the current way of doing it, which is a nice, simple way that I bet Cube has told me about, where we just clamp and we see if the clamped vector is the same. It's like a very, very straightforward, simple way to do a boundary check. It only works if the coordinate is within the boundary's space, I guess. Or it presumes that they're both within the same space, which is fine. We just need to remember that because that might matter later. Let's put that down here. How do I do this here? I'm doing something like that. I'm doing it like this. Oh no, I'm doing it like that. Okay. So we're going to, so for is within bounds, so we don't need to pass in a minimum. And oh yeah, wait, I decided I want to do this on the AABB, huh? I decided I want to do this on the vector. Why can't I see this? The AABB should not be in the ECS. We'll import this specific. Yeah, it shouldn't really be in there. Like the fact that it's a component is incidental, right? Like it doesn't have anything particular about it being a coordinate, yeah, this shouldn't be in di.ecs. It should be in like physics or something. Or I don't know. I'll change that later. I want ECS to only be things that handle the ECS. Like, or the ECS namespace, you know. I put it in there because I put all the components in there, but I realize now that's like kind of wrong. The only components that need to be in the ECS namespace are like component flags, and component types, like this stuff. Although arguably this doesn't even need to be in there. Because this is like, well, it should be in there, but this is like not part of like, this is something user defined. I need to think of a better way to do this, better way of arranging this. Let's not get distracted. I'm getting distracted. Why are you letting me get distracted? So we want to return coordinates. We want to say, oh, well, this is a little silly. I have to like assemble our, I have these properties stored separately. I guess I make an XYZ property. Or I just turn it into, we just return new vector 3i. X, Y, Z. This is probably not the right place to do this. I should probably not say within bounds. This should be on the AABB, and it should say like encloses or something. We say something like public bool encloses vector 3I vector. And then we return vector equals vector dot clamp. Yeah, minimum and maximum. This is it. This way you can say if bounds dot encloses vector. This is the correct way to do it. Get rid of that ECS reference in here. But I'm thinking I've defined this incorrectly. So our bounds is just, you know, an inclusive bound it goes from 0 to whatever to bounds. And that's the space that it's made up. This should probably be called like area or something, or volume or something like that, rather than bounds. But I think it's fine. So if bounds is 14, that means the AABB goes from 0 to 14. Is there an issue that's the special case of when boundary is 0 that I'm not accounting for? So if our boundary is 14, then our area would be 14 times 14, which is, that's incorrect because we go from 0 to 14 and we include 0 and 14. Okay, so this plus 1 thing is correct. So in fact, I need to do the same thing here when calculating volume. It's bounds.x plus 1 times bounds.y plus 1 times bounds.z plus 1. Okay. Then we have our center. And our center is wherever within this bounds range from 0 to whatever. This is where our pivot is. And so that determines that our maximum position, our maximum position is bounds minus center. So what if center is the same as bounds though? So what if bounds is 14, 14, 14, 14, and center is 14, 14, 14? That means our maximum is 0. Our maximum point is 0. That doesn't make sense. And our minimum point is negative 14. Okay, so I'm turning this into like a different space, and it's causing me problems. I need to not do that. So your minimum point is actually the difference between, so it's two different things. It's the difference between center and bounds, but it needs to be the right thing. So this bounds minus center is actually minimum, right? It's actually the minimum. Oof. This is where I fail, is thinking about math stuff, vector math specifically. But we'll figure it out pretty quickly here. Also getting very hungry. So if I have a grid, it's this big, and I have some center point somewhere in the middle. Well, so let's find the two edge cases first. So what if our center is at 0? That means our minimum is 0 and our maximum is the bounds. If our center overlaps with the bounds, the maximum bounds, then our maximum is the bounds and our minimum is 0. Is our minimum always just bounds? And well, I guess I'm accounting for degenerate cases. So right now center should be 0. Center is a way of like, I don't even know if I need this concept here for what I'm trying to do right now. I think it's distracting me. You just got back. You may be able to help with vector math. What did you miss? I'm I'm just getting in my own head about how the AABB works, because we just want to check between whether something is within the bounds. But I have this concept of the center, and I think I'm misusing it, because I don't actually, everything that we're doing exists in the same space. And I think the use of the center is causing some problems. So I just need to set center to 0. So this is all correct. I just need center to be set to 0 right now. Let's do that. Let's establish a constructor that doesn't require a center, because this only really matters if I have a position and I need to know where within the bounds the position is. In any other case, it doesn't matter. And this is probably still wrong for that case, but we're not dealing with that case right now, so I'm going to ignore it. So I think the fact that we were trying to set the center was causing us problems. But now that we're not doing that, ABB is 0. Well, no, for this one, center should be coords. I need to make sure I'm handling the case of the single-sized AABB correctly. That could also be causing me some trouble. I should probably just have used someone else's AABB instead of writing mine, instead of writing one of my own. But other people have this extent. They usually use center and extent, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be able to support even-sized AABBs for integral vectors. Obviously, if you're using floating point, you can do whatever you want. So if we're dealing with an AABB of size 1, so that would be bound 0, then whatever center we set here, so the maximum is going to be 0. So 0 minus center doesn't make sense, because let's say center is 1. So our maximum point should just be 1. So it should actually probably be center minus bounds, right? Did I have this backwards? Because similarly, our minimum point, our maximum point should be center plus the difference between the center and the bounds. That's what it should be. But from whose perspective? The center or the bounds? Probably the center. Our minimum point is also the center. but it needs to account for the bounds. So if the bounds is 0, this is true. Our maximum minimum point is the same thing. But if it's not 0, is it doing that because I used to have it that way? Is it just this? It can't be this. That's what the AI thinks it is, but that doesn't sound right. So your minimum point is not center plus bounds. Yeah, it has something to do with the difference between the bounds and the center. But I just need to make sure I get it in the right side. So your positive point, I should just draw this out. So if we have a grid, can I draw? Oh, I created an indexed. This is indexed. This shouldn't be indexed, but it's fine. So if you have our grid, and this is it. Goes up like this. You know, as one does. This represents our bounds, because the bounds always starts at 0 and goes to some number. And then our center is some point within it. Probably put this on a different layer. I need to get in the habit more of diagramming out stuff when I'm thinking about it, because it's better content than me just sitting and thinking about it. All right, and this is the center. I guess I could have made this a whole block. Diagrams are power, yeah. Especially for someone who like isn't a great visualizer. So this object, because it's the same color as the grid, this is gonna be our bounds. So this can be any value. It could be 0. It could be whatever this is. 8 by 7. Let's say 8 by 8. Maybe 8 by 7. Then let's make another one. That's our center. Okay, so we need to identify our minimum and maximum point here. Context of this AABB, what is the bounds? Is it the collision shape? No, it's not a collision shape. It's just, so we're clicking and dragging. And so we're defining an area. Technically we're defining a volume, but you can think of it as we're defining an area on a tile map. And then we're adding a z index, a z coordinate, because we might include multiple tile maps. So you can basically click and drag across a volume. And so we're creating a volume. And so so if we have a volume, I just need to understand how I'm calculating my maximum minimum point based on the center, because the center is our pivot point. So like if we need to be dealing with multiple spaces, like if we're translating it into some other object space or whatever, I need to know this. Like I need to know where we are, or I need to know where the maximum and minimum extent of this volume is based on its center point. So if we put the center here, let's just put it here. So our minimum point, so is the minimum point going to be an absolute? it needs to kind of be relative to the center, right? And so its minimum point at the moment would be -3, -4, right? So it'd be -3, -4. And its positive extent would be 4, 2. Problem is we're not really dealing with negative numbers here. But I know what this coordinate is. Okay, I think I understand how I'm going to do this. So maximum point is bounds minus center, and minimum point is, well, minimum point really is just negative center, isn't it? Yeah. Okay, so I had that right. I was literally just getting in my head that I didn't know what I was talking about. It is bounds minus center. The problem is I'm getting the maximum in the center's space. I need to not get it in the center. I need to translate it from the center's space back to world space, which I guess means just, in this case, it should be pretty easy. Center is just point inside. Why is it called center and not position or something? Well, because it's the center of the AABB. So in the range from 0 to XYZ, the center is like the pivot point of the AABB. The entity that has the AABB might also have a position. Like it might have a position in world space. But this is its pivot, like within the boundary space. And now I've got that, I need to just get back into world space, which for this case should be pretty easy. But I'm not good at this stuff. So here, when we're enumerating our values here, we're enumerating the vector, we're enumerating each point in our local boundary space, and then we're subtracting the center, which is maybe not right. It should be the other way around, right? It should be center minus get vector I. No, that's not right either. You need to get it out of local space into global space. Okay, let's go back to our little diagram. So if I'm iterating through each of these points, this point, the origin, so 0, 0, 0, so that what comes out as 0, 0, 0 needs to become -3, -4 for this case. And then up here, it needs to be 4, 2. So is that just the same thing as here? Minimum equals negative center. This is me struggling to get a vector into another vector space. So we're iterating through all of these. This is 0, 0. This is 1, 0. Should it just be minimum plus whatever I plug in here? Yeah, that's what it should be. I mean, or it could be 0, 0 minus maximum. Yeah, I think I had this backwards when I was iterating. That also might have been part of our problem. I think I was subtracting center. I think I want to add the minimum. So we take the minimum and then we're iterating from the minimum through each vector above it. And that spits out a vector relative to this center. So with this center is 0. It spits out a vector relative to this center vector. If this center vector is 0, then we're good to go. If this center vector is anything else, we need to think about that. So the center is going to be something else in the case of the prior bounds. Right? Yeah, it is. Actually, in all these cases, it's something else. Okay. Yeah, we actually don't use an AABB with a center of 0 very much. Ryson. Would you add the rect center to get the resulting point translated from the rect world space, the rect space to the world space? I guess I would. The dark blue square's position is a point relative to the center of the rect. You're still not sure you're on the same page. You keep getting pulled away by life. It's no worries. I should be able to figure this out on my own. No, this is just representing like the end of it. So this dark blue field is the bounds. So this is the bounds point. And then I'm using this red as the center. So these are just the two properties that we pass into the AABB. And this defines the AABB's volume then, or whatever, area in this 2D example. Frolansky, resubscribe to the Prime. Hey, Frolansky, free or not, you returned. That's awesome. How's it going? Happy New Year. I don't think I've spoken to you this year. How's your new role? This is the sort of thing I should just ask like the internet about. But I think I've got it now. So if we're iterating through all of these local coordinates and when we want to spit out the coordinate relative to its center, which we can add position. So if we get this coordinate relative to the center, so the center is a position in local AABB space. And this is the position that corresponds. So every other position is relative to this center position. So when we get the position out, we just add when we get whatever, if we're iterating through this and we get this, so we'd get like -3 -4 or +4 +2. Then we just add the actual position, like what this corresponds to in world space. And then we've got it. So let's look back at our code here and try to do that. Yeah, sorry, you've been really busy. No worries. New role is good. Not CTO yet. Got an intermittent step. You're head of dev. You just moved into your new house last week. That's awesome. You got a lot going on. So yeah, no worries. That sounds great. That's a great way to start the new year. New house, new job. Well, new job, quote unquote, new role. Here's a struggle. So is within bounds. Vector. We need to transform this vector first. So we need to say something like, we need to make it like a local vector. We need to localize this vector. How am I going to do that? Huh. Bounds point and center. Yeah, then yeah, you'd subtract the center's position. For landscape, how's this been going? It's grown a lot since you last saw it. We've done a lot and accomplished a little. So we ended up we wrote like an entity component system. We have a whole new backend for all the game data and stuff for the simulation layer. Problem is we're still kind of recreating our tile editor tool to use this new thing, and so we haven't really reached feature parity yet. But the potential of this new backend is really high, and the new tooling is the way it's set up. So it's like we'll be able to do so much more, but we're still like building up the functionality again. So I said if I want to get, so the center is where our global position is locally within the bounds. Okay. Locally within the bounds. If I'm iterating through all of the positions in the AABB to get the global back, I just add the center. Well, no, I don't add the center. Well, 0, 0 plus 3. No, I guess I do. I don't plus minimum. I plus, no, I do plus minimum. Because the minimum is the negative center. So as I exceed the center, I'll get beyond it. Yeah, okay, so we're iterating and spitting out the correct non-local coordinates here. Well, no, it's not non-local, is it? I'm spitting out coordinate numbers relative to the center that we received. Now, this is tricky. Did you decide between turn-based and real-time in the end? You saw that was a subject you missed. I am pretty sure we're gonna try turn-based to start. So this is kind of heading in a little bit more of an into the breach direction. I see why people normally do an AABB with extent, because if you just do it with extent, you can pretty much just pass in the global position and not worry about this stuff. I did it this other way where I have like this boundary thing, which is just a single vector 3, which extent would be as well. And then the center is like the pivot point of the ABB within the bounds. The problem is that means everything we do is in this local space of this boundary that goes from 0 to this limit. And the center gives you a way of getting it back out as a global position, but then we need to keep track of whatever the position is. And we need to convert, when we create this thing, we need to convert a position to a center. Which, how do we do that? I guess I need to know the bounds. I guess I subtract the bounds from the position, and that gives us the center. No, that doesn't make sense. Maybe it makes sense. Ryson, internally you could have extents, but then provide accessors for the various interpretations. I'm kind of tempted to just go back to extent. The reason I didn't do extent is I want to support AABBs that are like even numbers. And if you have extent, you can't do that unless I'm using like a vector 3 internal representation. So I have like a center that's like halfway between tiles. I didn't want to do that. Experiencing a bit of a brain log jam here. Let's go back to the diagram. We have all of this stuff. Let's say that this system, this coordinate is like somewhere else. I'm going to add another thing to this. I'm going to add another layer to this. I'm going to call this like the global position. Make it like green or something. I don't know. Put it here. That's a horrible color. I want a darker color. That. Okay, so this is still just uh, a graph, and we can put it like this. So if the global coordinate is at it's 6, 3. So basically we're saying I want to create a boundary around this global coordinate. The boundary is this size. The boundary is offset from the position here, which is why I probably used the word offset when I first created these AABBs instead of center. So the offset of the boundary is here. And so if I get back, as long as I get back a position relative to this offset, yeah, I just add the position to this. So if I'm saying I want to add, so what is this? This is an AABB that's 8 by 7 or something like that. So I create the AABB, I pass in an 8 by 7 bounds, and then I guess I just pick where within this I want. Most of the time we'll probably just pick the bounds divided by 2, which will give us a position close to the center, if not exactly. But in this case, I can pick a specific coordinate. I just need to pick a point within the boundary. Okay, I think I'm getting this now. I think this is making more sense to me. Ryson or the rect's center should always fall on the rect's global coordinate. I mean, that's the idea, but the thing is we're dealing with the same number. We're dealing with the same point in 2 different spaces. So the green is the global position in the world. The blue is just the boundary's upper limit. That's just what boundary is. This red is the global positions local position within this boundary that we're defining. So whenever we get a number out of the AABB, we need to add its global position back to it, if it has a global position. Okay, I get it. I get it. I kind of want to go back to calling this offset instead of center, because it's just its offset from the position. Yeah, I'm going to do that. It makes it easier for me to think about, because it's entirely dependent on another number somewhere else. And then so our boundary check. So what we need to do, so the trick is now, the thing I was thinking about is, if we pass in a vector, we need to get this vector into local space. And the way to do that is to subtract the position of the thing that we're talking about. No, is it that? Yeah, it's to subtract the position of the thing that we're talking about from whatever we're inputting here. Okay, so that makes sense. So we need to get this into local space first. If an AABB just exists in global space already, we don't need to do anything. Really? Often does. Leomotech, could you please define the problem that is being solved with example in the game mechanic? The input data we have, the output we want to get, and what is currently the problem that we're facing. Sorry, you're struggling to understand here. No worries. So what we're doing, it'll probably help me to do that too. What am I doing? Okay, I'm turning off the global so I can show you what we're doing, what we're trying to recreate basically. Right, and so there are two different concepts. You think you're getting muddled here. There's a center, as in the pivot point about which a block will rotate. It's not about which a block will rotate. It's the center is like the pivot point, oops, of the AABB. So basically we've got, our area. We can place a tile. This creates an anchor. And now we can do this. Now we can drag stuff out. So we're basically creating this space. And I have an AABB representation of this. And I just need to check things against it. So I just need to understand how my AABB works so I can tell, like, what tiles are we overwriting? What tiles are being reset as this moves? Because we're just checking a bunch of coordinates against this AABB, which in this case is just a rect because it's, this example is 2D, but it doesn't need to be. So I think the center of these AABBs is wherever the mouse cursor currently is. Or maybe it's not. Maybe in this case, the center can be 0, or I think it can. I think for this case, the center can be 0. The trick, though, is when I do this, when I click down once and I'm right here. So now we have an AABB of size 1. This one, okay, so no, this doesn't need to have a center. We can't have a center of 0 because a center of 0 would basically be this. It would just be something locked to the origin of the world space. So we need a center no matter what. But what is the center going to be? I guess it should just be wherever the mouse coordinate is. The thing is, we're creating this AAB with 2 points of data. The 2 points of data we have is where's the mouse cursor now, and where was the mouse cursor when we started this? And what I'm currently doing is I'm currently generating 2 coordinates. I'm taking those 2 points, which is what's the anchor and where is the mouse cursor now, and I'm using max and min to get the minimum and maximum points, which in this example are the opposite 2 corners. So like if I drag sideways, I have the anchor here and the cursor here. The minimum and maximum points are actually the 2 opposite corners. So I need to create an AABB. And the AABB is the boundary that I'm setting is the difference between the minimum and the maximum corners. And then the center should be, I guess it could either be the anchor or it could be the mouse coordinates. It really doesn't matter which. Is there a reason I would pick one or the other? Ryson, you'd handle representing the selected volume by keeping a pair of start and end points. Yeah, we're doing that. We are doing that. It's definitely the way to do it. Is there a reason it should be one or the other? As far as I can tell, no. One argument for it being the pivot point is that the pivot point is stable over time, which means I can check the prior AABB against the current AABB using the pivot point as the common reference point between the two. So it should probably be the anchor. And the anchor is just wherever we clicked on first. So that's probably what I should do. Because yeah, the coordinates here change all the time. Okay, I think we're figuring this out. Slowly, begrudgingly. Yeah, we're doing that, Ryson. We have that happening here. Bounds equals new anchor.max coords minus anchor.min coords, which I could just define as vector 3i.max and then anchor coords. For some reason, I defined it as a local function. I should probably define this as a static function. Because I don't like doing it this way. I don't like picking a vector and then maxing it with something else. I don't know why I did it that way. I don't really want to refactor that right now. But I think I'm going to change that. Just redo it with left and right or whatever. I think this is how the Godot vectors work. That'd be weird if that's true. I feel like I took a lot of advice, or I took a lot of inspiration from the Godot vector when I set that up. So here we say bounds this with a offset of the anchor. Should I call this anchor coords? Probably. And this one is vector 3. Prior bounds is bounds. Anchor chords is vector 3i. Chords is fine. And maybe this works now. Probably not, but we're getting closer. So hard to write code on YouTube. Yeah, it's definitely not the way. It's definitely not the way to go. Um, it'd be cool if they had a code formatting, but I know, but they need to like support formatting, and they would not want to do that probably. Some people have implemented fun overlays that can read like Markdown and stuff, and like HTML or whatever. That's kind of funny. All right, what am I doing? I'm testing. Oh, something went weird there. Oh, I need to fix. I've got the off by one bug again because I changed the boundary check. I need to adjust that. And we've got some errors. Attempting to divide by 0. Oh, that's a good reason not to have bounds be inclusive of 0. I should probably call it like size or something like that. Probably should call it size. Because then if you try to make an AABB of size 0, it's like obviously a failure. Volume is like a single number, right? Size. So I can probably say size. Let's redo that. So let's say size. This way, size is presumed to be a number greater than 0. Whereas bounds before was like a coordinate. So what needs to change for that? Its maximum is size minus the offset, sure. Minimum is negative offset. That seems fine. That seems resilient to that change. The rest of this all works correctly without that assumption. Get rid of that. Yeah, I don't think YouTube is super. I mean, YouTube seems to be investing in like their streaming, but yeah, I don't think they want to do any more than anyone else on that sort of thing. As far as like interaction, they definitely don't seem to have interaction be like a priority. So we don't want this anymore. Okay, so given that we are now using AABB.size, that changes some stuff for us. So encloses now needs to be the fact that this comes in offset. The fact that I need to pass this in with a position, like I need to localize this before. I should probably call this local position. Like like to make it super clear that this needs to be passed in like local as a local position. I need to make that explicitly clear. All right, we're gonna see if we can get a breakthrough here soon. I really don't want this to be another stream where we just end midway through something, but I am running out of time. So the anchor chords are what we base everything on. So if this is 0, this has got to be the center also needs to be 0. Well, we can't do this. This needs to be vector 3i dot 1. In which case we also need to pass in vector 3i dot 1. I guess an AABB of bounds of size 1 has an offset of 0. So what does that do? So size minus offset. So its maximum is 1. Its minimum is negative offset. So its minimum is 0. This is wrong. That breaks down. Hey, still needs work. Ship it. Welcome in. Good to see you. How are you doing? So how do we get this to work? Because I thought it was just negative offset, but if size is 1 and offset is 0, so the maximum is right. Size 1 minus offset should be 1. Is this also, is this something else? Is this like, its minimum also needs to be 1 in this case. If size was 2 and offset was 0, well, no, I guess offset needs to be, offset does need to be, oh, Jesus. We need to rename this to center. If we change it to size, this needs to be center because it's no longer an offset. It's actually just the center of the AABB. So we have center and size, and I think that works because now if size is 1 and center is 1, the maximum, oh, is not 1. Yeah, wait, what the F? Minimum is correctly identified. Well, minimum here is negative 1. Minimum and maximum positions need to be 0. It needs to, oh no, this is correct. Size minus center is 0. Minimum here is negative 1. This is wrong. I don't know. I don't know what I'm doing. How's it going? You're learning Android programming for class? Hell yeah. We're struggling implementing our own axis-aligned bounding box because I'm really bad at vector math. And this is not what I was planning on doing today. Shreyas Ganesh, what editor? Sorry, I'm sure I horribly butchered your name. This is JetBrains Writer. It's a nice editor by JetBrains for editing C#. Ask ChatGPT. Here's something about me. I have never knowingly input a prompt into an AI large language model. I mean, like, you can't get around it nowadays because you type in a Google chat or you type in a Google search and it gives you like a Gemini summary. And apparently Writer's autocomplete is also AI powered, but like, I'm really trying to understand this. JetBrains is awesome, yeah. So how do I want this to work then? So size, changing this from bounds to size seems good. This is center. This is our center within our size. So our maximum coordinate is 0. We want this to be 0, and we want this to be 0 for size 1. Is minimum the difference between center and size? No. The maximum is this difference. Is this the other difference? Is this center minus size? Size is not necessarily bigger than center anymore. No, that doesn't make sense. It's center, because center minus size, if size is 2 and center is 1. Center needs to be 0. This needs to be able to be 0. So for size 1, center 0. God, I am horrible at this. So maximum and minimum need to even out to 0 for the case of a size 1 AABB. And if a size 1 AABB can only have a center of 0. I mean, I guess it doesn't necessarily. You could define an AABB that's not local to you. Like you could define an AABB that's like if you're, let's say you're a wizard and you're like throwing out a blizzard and you're like, I'm throwing out this blizzard. The blizzard's probably not on top of you. The blizzard is probably like farther away. So actually, the center is just, well, no, this case doesn't capture that, actually. I actually can't represent that this way. Still needs work. You've been using Khan Academy to get your math refreshed and improved. That's great. I should just watch a 3 blue, 1 brown video on vector math. I do that anytime I'm trying to do vector math, and it usually reminds me. I'm like, oh, here's how matrix multiplication works, and here's how this works, and like, it's usually sufficient. But I'm struggling right now for some reason. We've kind of derailed the whole stream. Just trying to fix my AAVB so that it works correctly. I'm not doing the straightforward thing, which is to have a center and an extent. I'm really trying to avoid doing it. Center and extent is great because you can plug in the global position. I'm really trying to do a size of the AABB and like an offset. I guess we can go back to calling this offset. Because a size 1 AABB would have an offset of 0. Maybe we can support the case of like throwing a blizzard farther away. Because if your size is like 2 and your center is like -4, then the AABB has been moved outside of our area. And it's like between us and size. So if we do that, that means so is maximum size center minus size? Is it the difference, the distance between the size and the center? I mean, I guess we'd need to know where the axis, like which number is bigger. Maybe maximum and minimum are like not the things. Maybe this is not a representation that's like terribly useful for us. Lark, yeah, no worries. Thanks for hanging out. Still needs work. Appreciate that as we struggle here. 3-1 brown. Khan Academy is awesome. 3 blue, 1 brown is great too. Oh, Tobugi is raiding us with a party of 9. That's great. Welcome in. Hello, Tobugi. And Tobugers. What do you call your community members?
Maximum what?
Probably not Tobugers. But I kind of like it. Blobs, maybe? I like Tobugers. Hello, Raiders. We're working on an FTL-like kind of game, like an isometric 3D space game. Blobbies right now? Okay. Yeah, I would you should entertain the idea of the Tobuger. How's it going? This is what, like your second stream back or something like that? Oh yeah, you're streaming on Thursdays now. That's awesome. I haven't been able to hop in. But I should be able to hop in the Thursday streams, maybe. Do we start at the same time? We might start at the same time now, because I also have kind of a new schedule. I'm streaming later than I used to. And longer. So we're already like 3 hours in, and like I should be wrapping it up. But we just got raided, so I can't. 300 followers. Dr. Javasaurus. You got us there. Thank you so much. The good calling that out, no Joel. I need a goal. I need like a goal alert. Thank you, Dr. Javasaurus, for the follow, getting us to our goal of 300. That's amazing. Thank you so much. Happy New Year. Yeah, how's it going? You got a I heard you have a launch date for Wake Cup. It's like March. Welcome in, Dr. Javasaurus. Good to have you here. March 14th. Awesome. That's great. I mean, I'm sure that's terrifying because that's only like what, like 2 months away. It's done. It's official. The launch date is official, and so is the Tabugi community name. Taboogers. I mean, Taboogers are sticky. I'm not gonna get tired of that. So welcome in, Raiders. We're deep. We've been struggling today, but I'm gonna show you the kind of stuff we're trying to work on. We're doing this. I showed this. This is like we're trying to do this isometric FTL-like thing. We have an old auto tiling tool set that we've been using that works. I say confidently as I test it out. And it's this old tool that can let us build out these 3D shapes, auto tiling everything. We've been working really hard. Oh, I can't make rooms anymore because I got rid of the commands that let me do it. Oops. Well, that's a terrible demo. Let me fix that. You see what these commands are called. We're doing the thing which is always the hardest thing, where we have two different ways of doing things. Floor block, wall block, door block. Okay. And you'll re-implement these. Floor block, wall block, door block. And then we just make these 1, 2, 3. Yeah, we have two parallel ways of doing everything. Made a lot of progress? I wouldn't say that. I've done a lot on the back end. I've done an awful lot on the back end. But this, we're still fighting to reach feature parity with this. We've built an entity component system. We've got this whole separate simulation layer. So we can make compartments, and we can do all the FTL things of like building little rooms out and stuff. Make some doors now that we've made this compartment. Our auto tiler works with doors, which is fun. 1 second, be right back. But yeah, we've written this whole new backend. Sorry, someone rang my doorbell. You've been offline a while, so it's all new progress. It's all progress for you. Oh, it's all kind of new for you. Yeah, I understand that. But yeah, we've been fighting to get this working again in our new environment, which is this very slick C# based entity component system setup. We're actually doing some fancy stuff where we've moved the auto tiler and everything off here. So all of our simulation data is out here, and we just pass back what we want to render. And then we pass in all the input that we want to receive. So all the rendering and UI stuff is still in Godot with the scene tree and everything like that. And then all the simulation stuff is offloaded. So we're actually doing all of the auto tiling here now, and then at the very end, we pass back a packed byte data a packed byte array, which is just this pinned array of byte data. And then the tile maps can unpack it, and that's how we update the tile map layers. And what we've been struggling with today is that I have an AABB implementation which is busted. And I'm trying to wrap my head around how it should work. Because we're doing an unusual thing where normally what you would do with an AABB is you just have a center and then you have an extent. And then, but what I'm doing, I want to be able to support, because these are all vector 3i's, if we do a center and extent, all our ABBs are odd length. So they'll have a center tile and then they're evenly spaced on any side. I wanted to do something else where I wanted to do like a size and a center. So we have a size and then the center is like where within that size is our, you know, where are we? Where is our position within that AABB? Which I'm realizing we can actually support AABBs that aren't within our area, which is pretty cool. If we separate a center that's like far away from the size, it's kind of fancy. It would need to be a center that is either bigger. It needs to be a center that's bigger than the size, like absolutely bigger than the size. N7 Sensei, Godspeed. FTL needs a successor. It was a crime how short it was. Yeah, people have been making content for it for years. There's some good mods for it. There's like, I think it's called like the Universe mod or something like that. People have made tons of content for FTL. But yeah, thank you. I'm going to do my best. That's why we're spending all this time on tools and systems, and why I'm working so hard on a good tile editor, is so that players will eventually be able to use the tools I'm using to make additional content, like to make new ships and stuff. Because I acknowledge the fact that, like, you know, indies can only make so much content, so it really behooves us to invest in systems, so that if you make a good system, then and the community, you know, rallies around it, then you've got other people that can make user-generated content. You've got mods, you got a modding scene, a healthy modding scene, all this stuff. So yeah, we're putting a lot of effort in the tools to make that possible, but I appreciate that, N7. Thank you. You'll check it out, even though you're a mod freak, you never modded FTL. Yeah, you should check it out. There's some good stuff on Steam. I haven't played most of them. I should, because they'd probably teach me a lot. But yeah, check back in a few years and we'll have something. It's only going to take a few years. Check back in 5 years. All right, so our maximum is like size. There's something about the difference. We need to do some kind of comparison. Well, right now, the only case I care about is that the center is within the size. I'm academically amused by this idea of like the AABB not being within our own, like us not being enclosed within our own AABB. I think that's kind of awesome. I would probably have a larger data struct to manage that. I'd probably have like an AABB and then I'd put that within another component or something like that. You'll definitely check back. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that. All right, we'll go a little longer. I was like ready to wrap up. And by ready to wrap up, I meant I was going to abandon what I was trying to do today because it's not been working out. But we're going to struggle a little longer and try to visualize this. So if we have an AABB of size 2 and our center, so if our center is between 0 and 1, then we're good. That means our center is within our size. We could have a center that's not. I'm gonna presume that this is a well-formed AABB at the moment, well-formed, quote unquote. Because right now our use case is having the center within the size. So we're only going to consider that case. So if we have an AABB of size 2 and our center is 0 or 1, that means if our center is 0, our maximum size should be 2. So that's size minus 0. So 2 minus 0 would give us 2. Our minimum would be 0, so we just plug in the 0. If size is 1, and so here's a weird case. If size is 1 and center is 0, then our maximum should also be 0. Oh, maybe I just need to do size minus 1 or something like that. Minus center. Because if our size is 2 and our center is at 0, our maximum should be 1. But 2 minus 0 is not 1. So maybe it's size minus center minus 1, or something like that. Or size minus 1 minus center. And then our minimum would be 0. If size was 1 and center was 0, yeah. Okay, let's do that for now and see if that works. I want something more sophisticated. Oh yeah, vector 3, 1. Vector 3i dot 1. Maybe this works. We do need to deal with this encloses issue. So we need to do some things. We have these references to utility.isWithinBounds. Let's get rid of them. Let's kill this. And then reconnect whatever we've got here. So try preview block. If not utility.isWithinBounds, coords vector 3 to 0, comp AABB. So what we would say is we would say if not comp dot AABB dot encloses coords. We don't need to do any localization at the moment, I don't think, for this. So here we would also similarly say comp dot AABB dot encloses. Here we have access. So here instead of comp, we're actually doing prior bounds. No, we're doing bounds dot encloses coords. Okay, so that's that. There's 2 more errors here. Oh, obviously. How's the test system doing what it's doing? GameWorld.addBuffer, new AABB utility, max block volume. Let's make this 0. So max block volume needs to go back to being 15 because it's actually a size. We should say that we should rename this to max block size. It's also not a block. We need to say this like max, block volume, max volume, buildable volume. I don't know. Buildable zone. What? Who cares? I'm gonna not rename it. I can't think of a name for it right now. All right. Everything is probably broken, even though it's not telling me it is. Probably is. Gotta add our input handler back. Input handler not declared. It is. I just added it. Oh no, I did this part and then you have to hit add. Great. Oh, and now I'm trying to save a scene while running. It's not like that. All right. Okay, well, it didn't crash, but it's not doing anything. Our new process. Okay, I see a change that we want to make. So we want to only do this here and mid interaction LF. Oh no, this is correct. Okay. Debugger. So we do have some errors. What do we see? Throw min max exception. 3 cannot be greater than -4. Yeah, I agree. Let's see what's going on there. I'm gonna resolve these bugs and then we'll probably call it. And we'll probably have to get the behavior next time. I have to get this working correctly next time. So clamp. Oh, is the minimum vector. The minimum vector is, so sometimes the minimum vector is being passed in. Okay. Okay. So as a min, I'm mixing up the min and the max sometimes. Somehow. How am I doing that? I'm expect that I'm doing it right here. No, I'm not doing it here. So anchor is min. That's the size. Anchor coords is the center. The minimum size minus vector 3.1 minus center. Oh, I think the maximum is ending up being this big negative number. Because I'm passing in a center. No, the center I'm passing in is between 0. Oh, but it's a bigger number than size. I see. Okay. All right. I need to figure this out later. I'm starting to get hangry. That's not good for anyone. So, thank you for the raid, Tavugi. I hope I can catch you next week. But I need to go have lunch. So I'm going to pay it forward and we're going to send everyone along. We're going to send everyone along down to probably Otter Makes Games. Let's see who else is streaming. Cool Friends, Code Wonderland, Stream Team Jam Prep. It's tempting. We're going to go hang out with Otter. I think Otter just started. I'm going to cue up the music. Get that going. Appreciate everyone hanging out today. I know it's been kind of a struggle today. I'll probably do some research on this today. Probably try to watch some videos, look at some other implementations of AABB, and think about what I really want to do here. Because I know what I want to do here, but I need to figure out how we get there. because the way I'm going about it right now is not working. Maybe we'll watch some 3 blue 1 brown videos. Yeah. All right. Thanks, Scott. Thanks, Ryson. No Jewel. Taboogie. Dr. Lavasaurus. Or Lavasaurus. Dr. Javasaurus. Thank you again. Yeah, we're about to raid out to Automate Games. They make some great stuff. They're working on a really cool game about a dog. About their dog, if I understand correctly. Their art is incredible. I love watching their art. But yeah. I'm going to need to raid and run, so I'll probably just spam and run. Make some lunch. But thank you all so much for watching. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. So I'll see you then.
Maximum warp.